Enumeration and system hacking. Learning objectives. Understand enumeration, which is the final pre-attack phase in which you probe for usernames, system roles, account details, open shares, and weak passwords. Describe how to uncover what services, applications, and protocols exist on every identified target computer and the techniques which malicious hackers use with regards to system hacking in order to gain access, escalate privileges, exploit loopholes, steal data, controlling and covering tracks. Review the wide array of hacking tools that are used by malicious hackers to gain access to systems. Enumeration, defined as an in-depth analysis of targeted device, performed by connecting systems to identify user account, system account, services, and system details. Process of proactively querying or connecting with target system in order to elicit information on NetBios, LDAP, SNMP, Unix or Linux operation, NTP servers, and SMTP servers and DNS servers. Windows enumeration. The intent of Windows enumeration is to recognize user account and system account that can be for potential use. Ethical hackers should aim to collect basic knowledge from a system administrative perspective. Understanding of Microsoft client systems and server is essential with regards to Windows 7, 8, and 10. The kernel is considered an essential and part of the operating system. Operating systems within Microsoft implement rings of protection when evaluating which component to trust. The protection ring model maintains level of access and granularity. Example of protective rings model. The example model of the Windows architecture evidently depicts the user mode ring 3 and kernel mode ring 0. Restrictions are contained within the user mode, whereas the kernel mode permits full access of all resources. Ethical hacker must be aware most antivirus and analysis tools have the functional capability of identifying hacking tools and code which operate within the user mode. Ethical hacker must have awareness in the event if a code is implemented within the realms of the Windows system and executed in the kernel mode, the code by large can disguise itself within the user mode detection and will remain harder to identify. The intent of the hacker is always to execute code within the highest privilege levels. Windows implements the following types of identifies in order to maintain trace of all user security rights and identity. Security identifiers, relative identifiers. SID can depict as a data structure of variable length which aims to identify user group and computer accounts. RID is a portion element of SID which aims to recognize user or group in relation to the authority that the user has. Windows security. In standalone computers, user information and passwords are stored in the Security Account Manager database. In the scenario of the system being part of the domain controller upholds all critical information within the Active Directory. In the event of systems operating as standalone, SAM upholds all the passwords for the local users and groups. The SAM database is held in the Windows Systems 32-config folder in a protected area of the registry under HLM/SAM. Active Directory is the directory service which incorporates a database that maintains information with regards to password information privileges for domain users and groups. Local Security Authority server is another essential element of the Windows security. It can also be defined as a user mode process whose remit is to maintain responsibility for the local system security policy. This encompasses controlling access, managing password policies, authenticating users, and triggering security audit messages to the event log. NetBios and LDAP enumeration. Established by IBM, NetBios systems are identified on the basis of a unique 15-character unique name, non-routable by default, adopted by Microsoft to run over TCP and IP, incorporated with server message block that enables remote access of shared directories and files. Examples of key ports and protocols used by Microsoft. LDAP is recognized as a prominent internet protocol which thrives on accessing distributed directory services. The basic encoding rules refers to information that is exchanged amongst client and server. LDAP session is also established by client by connecting on TCP port 389 that encompasses directing an operating request to the directory system agent. The scope of services which are offered can typically encompass organizational records, such as email directory. LDAP are highly attractive targets which can be exploited to elicit usernames, addresses, and department information. Server's Message Blocks was a legacy service with the intent to enable users to share files and folders. This, however, has now been replaced with the inter-process communication. IPC refers specifically to the mechanisms an operating system provides to allow processes to manage shared data. Applications can implement IPC categorized as servers and clients where the client requests data and the server responds to client requests. IPCs are also used to support named pipes that programs utilize for inter-process communications. However, since named pipes can be redirected over the network to connect local and remote systems, they also enable remote administration. A null session typically takes place when the user logs into a system with no user ID and no password. A null session can typically be created using the net command for legacy Windows versions such as Windows XP and Windows 2003. An entire stack of net commands exists. To view a detailed list, the user should type in net from the command line and the / syntax after any of the commands you see that you would like more information on. IPCS can be exploited for enumerating user details, account information, weak passwords, etc. Executing a net use / computer name / IPC / u command, ethical hackers can start performing hacking at the system. It is essential prior to using any enumeration tools, a null session is established. DumpSec is a Windows-based graphical user interface GUI, which is an enumeration tool that empowers users to exercise connecting remotely to Windows machines and share permissions and user information. Moreover, it can also elicit usernames, SIDs, RIDs, account comments, account policies, and dial-in information. Hyena is a GUI tool that can be exercised to elicit logon names, shares, IP addresses, etc. Moreover, it can also be channeled to elicit SID, RID, comments, full name, etc. The SuperScan is a enumeration tool that can be utilized to elicit all information with regards to any user from any vulnerable Windows system. NetBios Enumerator, defined as a GUI tool which can also be utilized to extract user information from a target domain or computer. SNMP Enumeration, known as the Simple Network Management Protocol, TCP and IP standard that is implemented for remote monitoring and exercising management-related areas for hosts, routers, nodes, and physical devices on the network. Primarily operates within the system domain of agents and nodes. SNMP remit is to enable requests sent to agents and agents sent back replies. SNP can also offer data encryption and authentication. The following SNMP enumeration tools can be identified for Windows and Linux. 1. SNMP Walk, Linux command line SNMP application which incorporates SNMP get next request in order to perform querying capabilities towards a network entity for a tree of information. 2. Network Performance Monitor, a GUI-based network discovery which empowers users with the functionality to perform detailed analysis about devices on a unique or entire subnet. 3. SN Scan, a GUI based on SNMP scanner from a cafe. Services such as Finger, RWho, RUsers, and Simple Mail Transfer Protocol can be exploited by hackers. RWho and RUsers, known as remote procedure services, which can provide a wide range of information about users on the system. Executing RPC info-p against system will empower hackers to collate information which depicts the status of the RWho and RUsers. RUsers have dependency on the RWho daemon, which comprehensively depicts the details of all users that have logged into the local machines into the WHOIS format, host names and usernames. Finger programs can be utilized to identify the names which are related to the address and also depict users that are logged into the system. SNMP TP can also be incorporated for enumeration. Hackers can elicit user information by exploiting the SNMP VRFY and EXPEN commands to identify the guest users on the system. The following are techniques that can be used to exploit the Linux systems. RPC client, using this command, the attacker can enumerate usernames. Show mount, the show mount command displays a list of all the clients that have remotely mounted a file system from a specified machine in a host parameter. The finger command enumerates user and the host. It enables the attacker to basically view the user's home directory, login time, idle times, office location, and the last time the user or host received or read an email. The service is also typically off, and by default it runs on port 79. rpinfo command helps you enumerate the RPC protocol. It makes an RPC command call to an RPC server and reports what it finds. The enum for Linux command is used for enumerating information from Windows and Samba commands. The application basically acts as a wrapper around the following Samba commands. SNMP Enumeration. The network time protocol is implemented to synchronize clocks of network computers. NTP incorporates UDP port 123. The following basic commands, which can be attempted, thus comprise of the following. NT update, used to collect time samples. NTP trace follows time server's backup, the chain to the primary time server. NTPDC, used to query about the state of the time server. NTPQ, used to monitor performance. SNMP enumeration tools include the following: present tense time server, NTP server scanner, LAN time analyzer. SMTP enumeration. The simple mail transfer protocol is utilized for transmission of email messages. They operate on TCP port 25 and is used to perform usernames enumeration via EXPN, RCPT, VRFY commands. Penetration testers can also capitalize on the usernames and engage in additional attacks. Other common SMTP enumeration tools include the following: NetScan Tools Pro, Nmap, DNS Enumeration. Domain names enumeration is the process of identifying all information about the DNS. Scope of information includes internal and external DNS servers, performing lookups of DNS records for information, usernames, computer names, and IP addresses of target systems. System hacking. Scope of system hacking typically entails attempting to gain access. The intent of system hacking is to authenticate to the remote host with the highest levels of access. Authentication systems can experience non-technical and technical password attacks. Non-technical password attacks. The following are the types of non-technical attacks employed by hackers: diving, social engineering, shoulder surfing. Technical password attacks. Tools that can be used during enumeration typically entail Hyena, network performance monitoring, stat. The password attack techniques comprise of the following: password guessing, automated password guessing, password sniffing, keylogging. Password guessing. Documentation should be maintained for all penetration tests and previous activities. Password guessing is successful due to people using easy to remember words and phrases. Tools and online passwords and pond password repositories exist that can be implemented to identify breached passwords. Recon NG is a full-featured reconnaissance tool that features a pond lookup. Sites with searchable databases also consist of pond accounts. Penetration testers should focus on the following types of accounts where the account holder is not known to them. The password hasn't changed for a length of time. Weakly protected service accounts. Poorly shared accounts. Users have never logged in. Passwords known by you is the weakest forms of authentication. Other authentication techniques include tokens and biometrics. The following are the most common characteristics amongst biometrics. F and FRR. The most prominent measurements implemented by biometric systems are false acceptance rate and the false rejection rate. The false acceptance rate also illustrates the ratio of users who should have been rejected due to a lack of authorization were accepted by the biometric system. The false rejection rate illustrates the ratio of users who were authorized but were rejected by the biometric system. CER, known as the crossover error rate, which can be implemented in order to benchmark and compare the accuracies of the biometric devices. Strength: Irish biometrics classified to be the strongest forms of authentication. Automated password guessing. Popular free tools such as Brutus and THC Hydra can be implemented to automate password guessing. Password sniffing. Sniffing and keystroke loggers can offer the potential possibility to guess passwords. The scope of password sniffing entails having physical or logical access to the device. Techniques such as passing the hash permits hackers to authenticate to a remote server by implementing the NTLM or LM hash password incorporate to implementing the relevant password in a form of plain text. Password sniffing. Mimikataz is a pass the hash application which enables attacker to authenticate to a remote server using the LMNTLM hash of a user's password, offsetting the requirement to crack and brute force the hashes to elicit the clear text password. Windows does not salt passwords. Consequently, they remain in the LSASS from session to session until password is changed. Pass Hash Toolkit can be downloaded from the following link. Windows 8 and 10 defaulting settings do not store plain text passwords in LSASS. Tools that are available to exploit the Kerberos authentication. Kerberos established to provide secure and encrypted means for authentication between client and server. Kerberos enables single sign-on. Kirby Crack can be implemented to crack Kerberos. Keylogging consists of software or hardware devices that are implemented in view of monitoring activities. Hardware keystroke loggers installed in the absence of the users from their desks. Hardware keyloggers can also utilize Wi-Fi as a means to establish communications with the device via Bluetooth or wireless connection. Software keystroke loggers operate between the operating system and the keyboard. Example of common keystroke loggers. Privilege, escalation, and exploiting vulnerabilities. Standard user accounts are based on a limited privilege and do not provide privilege escalation and full control. Only in the victim system can the hackers execute privilege escalation tools. Common techniques comprise of the following, which can aid the hacker in using the victim system to exploit a vulnerability. Manipulating authentication, manipulating the user to accepting to execute the program, enforcing the copying of the privilege escalation tool within a target system and implementing timescales to execute the exploit, exploiting interactive access into systems such as terminal services, web access, and Microsoft Remote Desktop, BoomGar, etc. Hackers can also leverage on privilege escalation via the dynamic link library injection within Windows applications. Hackers have opportunities to incorporate malicious DLL as opposed to the real DLL to pursue malicious intent. Hackers are able to exploit a built-in applications. The following type of attack can overcome all Windows protection checks. Pressing the Shift key at least 5 times opens the sticky keys options in Windows. Hackers can replace the set.exec with cmd.exec. Replacing the file and using command prompt and executing Explorer permits full access to the computer. In this attack, first, Windows initially validates if .exe is digitally assigned, in which cmd.exe is second. Windows performs validation that exe is in existence within the system directory, hence to validate the integrity level and administrator permissions. Windows then exercises to ensure that the executable is maintained within the internal list of Windows protected system files in which cmd.exe is and consequently is approved. Consequently, Windows maintains the view that it is executing the accessibility feature sticky keys. However, on the contrary, it is actually deploying the shellcode running as a local system. Exploiting buffer overflow. Buffer overflow typically takes place when a data storage area experiences larger character buffers as opposed to the actual amount of space allocated. Poor error checking makes programs vulnerable to buffer overflows. Boundary protection can be implemented to prevent buffer overflows. C programs are largely known to be vulnerable to buffer overflow attacks since C has inherited many functions which do not perform checking of boundaries. Constantly patching system and application is one of the most effective measures to protect against buffer overflows. Escalation tools. Example of C language function for overflows. Accessing the SAM. Once the hacker accesses the SAM, they have potential access to all the passwords. All user account passwords are maintained in the SAM in the hashed form. SAM can be stolen via physical and logical access. SAM can also be obtained from the NTERD repair disk from the C drive. Implementing tools such as lint and NFT SDOS can also provide physical access. Tools such as pwdump and LCP can be implemented to exploit SAM via logical access. Windows authentication types. A large number of protocols are supported by Windows. Windows supports protocols for network authentication, dial-up authentication, and internet authentication. The Windows authentication protocol comprise of the following: LLM authentication, which you use by Windows 95, 98, ME, and is based on DES. NTLM authentication used by NT until Service Pack 3 and is based on DES and MD4. NTLM version 2 authentication is used post NT Service Pack 3 and is based on MD4 and MD5. And Kerberos implemented first in Windows 2000 and can be used by all current versions of Windows, including Windows Server 2012 and Windows 10. Windows incorporates 6 levels of authentication to build better defenses against cracking passwords. Cracking Windows passwords. LoopCrack is a Windows password cracking tool. FGDump and PWDump are highly effective tools for password extraction tools. Password cracking can be categorized into the following: dictionary, hybrid, and brute force attacks. Dictionary entails words from dictionary or word lists in order to elicit a user's password. Hybrid attack utilizes a dictionary or word list, then appends characters and numbers to dictionary words to crack the user password. Brute force attack implements random numbers and characters to crack a password. Tools such as LoftCrack, LCP, Kane, and Abiel, and John the Ripper can all perform dictionary, hybrid, and brute force password cracking. Hiding files and covering tracks. The following are techniques that hackers can implement to disguise their attacks. Logging. A Windows tool for auditing policies works well for hackers too, as long as they have administrative access. clearing the log file, the attacker will also attempt to clear the log. Tools such as WinZapper, Evidence Eliminator, and ELSave can also be used. ELSave will remove all entries from the logs except one entry that shows the logs were cleared. Rootkit consists of tools and replacement executables, print system critical components. Can be used to disguise evidence and trace of the hacker, largely dependent on root access. However, permit full-scale access to hacker once system is under control. Contain log cleaners that can be channeled to remove all hacker presence from log files. Traditionally, rootkits replace binaries such as is, ifconfig, inetd, killall, login, netstat, password, pidoff, and ps with Trojan versions that were written to hide certain processes or information from the administrators. Rootkits of this type are detectable because of the change in size of the Trojan binaries. Tools such as MD5, SUM, and Tripwire can be effectively used to uncovering these types of hacks. Rootkits can be divided into several categories. Hypervisor modifies the boot sequence of a virtual machine. Hardware firmware hides in the hardware or firmware. Bootloader replaces the original bootloader. Library level replaces the original system calls. Application level replaces application binaries with fake ones. Loadable kernel level adds malware to the security kernel. Rootkits aim to target the loadable kernel module and corrupt the kernel. Kernel rootkit installed as a driver or in the form of kernel extension. Kernel rootkits maintain avoiding detection from many software methods. Application programming interface hooks can be implemented by rootkits to disguise their existence. The following depicts the diverse types of rootkit targets x86 systems and incorporates the device infection technique, implements the dropper to prevent detection by intrusion detection, installs a kernel mode rootkit emerged in 2011, Azazel user land rootkit based off the Jinx rootkit largely focuses on anti-debugging and anti-detection, Zero Access kernel mode rootkit that implements advanced techniques to disguise presence in order to infect Windows computers. Ethical Hacker Response Rootkit. Ethical hackers can implement the following tools to identify if a rootkit has been installed. The CHK rootkit, prominent rootkit that can be used to search for signs of a rootkit. The Rootkit Revealer, standalone utility used to detect and remove complex rootkits. McAfee Rootkit Detective, designed to look for and find. It can also examine system modifications, and the Trend Micro Rootkit Buster, another tool that scans files and system binaries for known and unknown rootkits. File hiding. Hackers employ a wide range of techniques in order to disguise their tools on a victim's computer. The attribute used largely by hackers files, low traffic areas. Hackers search for areas with low traffic and often place their files in those areas. NTFS alternative data screens. Hackers can use this advanced method to hide their files using the streams on a system. ADS gives hackers the opportunity of disguising malware and hacking tools that can be executed later. Tools which can identify streamed files encompass the following. Streams, a Microsoft tool. SFind, a forensic tool for examining streamed files. LNS, a tool used for identifying streaming files.